With Jon Jones returning, there's been a lot of talk and complaints about drugs in the streets. Anywhere that Jones goes, trouble follows. John Picogram Jones has had his fair share of run-ins with USADA and steroid pops in the past, and in lieu of all this, I realized it's been a while since there's been a drug testing pop for a decent profile UFC fighter. The news for UFC fighters testing positive has been quiet. A little too quiet. For as long as most fans can remember, the whole of UFC's drug testing was handled by USADA. Honestly, you can ask most fans today who they think tests UFC fighters, and they'll say USADA. The UFC and USADA ended their relationship at the end of 2023. To replace them, and effective January 1st of 2024, was the UFC's all-new anti-doping program. Which is actually pretty damn confusing. It's not just one organization that does it all. It's broken up into different organizations that each play a role in the testing of a fighter. The new program first relies on the DFSI, or Drug Free Sport International Organization, to collect no-notice samples. This company is the main standard throughout the sports world. It's the same company that collects samples for the NFL, MLB, FIFA, PGA, NASCAR, and many others. The DFSI just handles the collection of a sample. They're the ones that go out and get the blood or urine sample, well, unless it's our boy Jon Jones who plays hide and seek under the ring when they show up. When it comes to the analysis of the sample, that's where these guys come in. This organization handles the screening for banned substances like EPO, high levels of testosterone, and HGH. Finally, if a positive test comes back, a third company is in charge of taking out the belt and dealing some punishment. The Combat Sports Anti-Doping Organization, or CSAD, the president of which is George Piro, which the UFC website makes sure in detail you know who this man is, talking about how he's a former cop and FBI agent with 20 years of experience, a no-gi jiu-jitsu masters world champion, and was a supervisory special agent and team leader of the Saddam Hussein interrogation team in Baghdad. I'm not joking, this was word for word from the UFC page. Like, whoa there buddy, I didn't know we were shackling and waterboarding the UFC roster if they fail a drug test. The new UFC drug testing program is confusing, but on paper, it's legitimate. I know fans like to clown on the UFC and say that these guys are just sending out a questionnaire that asks, are you taking steroids? Check this box for yes, or this box for no. Or giving each sample the old smell and look test, but that's not the case here. The fighters are actually being tested, and there have been a good amount of pops, and those fighters have been punished. Guys like Wal Harris and Khalil Roundtree, for example. But the problem with PED testing, and not just with the UFC, but with most sports, is that these guys are all at the upper 1% peak of their respective sports. At these levels, everyone is so evenly matched that each person is looking for any edge to get above the rest of the competition. It also just so happens that some have the money or teams and doctors around them that can give them said edge. Taking just the right amount where it won't be detected, or taking it at a time where it won't be in your system by the time you get tested. There's so many ways to evade these tests, and people that dope are always ahead of the game. They can use the old, I can't be tested because I'm in the middle of the Sahara Desert excuse, or how about the tainted gas station pill excuse. If someone is using a new drug or figured out a way to cheat, you can't stop them until you find a way to catch them. Fans need to stop being so gullible. Most of these guys are on some form of PEDs whether they look like it or not. Which leads me to some possible contenders in the UFC. First up, Kayla Harrison. Bro, come on now. This girl has the physique most teenage boys strive for. You can trick me with your eyes and deceive me with your words, but the delts and traps, they don't lie. She has a pro bodybuilding level physique while competing in the MMA and being an elite world-class judo practitioner. I'll just go ahead and put it this way. If there was ever a betting line on whether this woman has taken steroids or not, I would not only put my entire life savings on it, but I would take out a mortgage and throw that on top. Next up, the Dagestanis. Go ahead and name two things that go together. The classic peanut butter and jelly, biscuits and gravy, salt and pepper. Well, for Russia, you got steroids. The tale of Russian athletes and PED pops go deep. The two have history. I'm talking state-sponsored and systemic doping to the highest degree. Russia has the most competitors who have been caught doping at the Olympic Games, and it's not even close. There have been a total of 51 Olympic medals stripped from Russia, which is 4 times the number of the next highest. Now, it wouldn't be right to group all Russian athletes as a whole, as some Russian athletes have done it the right way and are natural. But with that being said, they're all on steroids. Next up, the Brazilians.
Everybody's on steroids.
Now, there's two options here. Option 1, in the wise words of Nate Diaz, we accept that everybody is on steroids. We can go back to the good old days and have it be the Wild West out there. Everybody can take anything at any time. I'm talking TRT, HGH, Tren, EPO, Coca-Cola, the whole 9 yards. The return of TRT Vitor at the ripe age of 47. Pumped up albino silverback Brock Lesnar versus horse meat Alistair Overeem, or even unlimited gas tank TJ Dillashaw. The possibilities are endless. Hell, if GSP wants to return and Vaseline his entire body like the BJ Penn fight, and or the fighters have the choice here, if Derek Lewis wants to douse himself in some of that Diddy baby oil before the fight, that's fine too. As for option 2, we accept the system we have now and we just give the roster the old squinted eyes test if a fighter is looking a little too saucy. Now that I think about it, maybe option 1 ain't so bad. Quick shout out to my other boy, the preacher Michael Chandler. I mean, just look at the guy. Need I say more?